Here's a question for you. How many times today have you thought, I need to remember that, and then just hoped for the best? A meeting you need to prep for, an idea that came to you in the shower, a thing that you wanted to look up in the next time you get 5 minutes. We carry so much in our heads, and then we wonder why we feel scattered or why the evening arrives and we've lost track of what actually mattered during the day. I used to do this too, until I stopped trying to remember everything and started writing things down. Not in some elaborate productivity system, just in a notebook. Today, I want to share the journaling and habit system I've built over time. It's not perfect, it's not complicated, but it's genuinely changed how I think, how I wind down, and how I make sure I'm living the balanced life I keep talking about, rather than just talking about it. Welcome back to A Balanced Life, the show about productivity and focus without burning out. I'm Ian, and if you're new here, the basic idea of balance isn't that it's something you simply achieve once, it's something you work at, and I'm working at it right alongside you. Today's episode is about journaling and habit tracking, two things that might sound a bit worthy or self-healthy, but the version I'm going to talk about is a genuinely practical and honestly a bit low-tech for a productivity podcast. There's a Moleskine notebook, there's a smaller carry notebook, there are some 3D printed pen clips. That's pretty much it. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with a confession about journaling. I've tried to do it properly before, and it was awful. I had a specific journal with a template, structured prompts, set sections, a very clear idea of how every entry should look. And for a while, I stuck at it. Months, actually. But here's the thing. I hated it. Every time I sat down to write, I felt like I was filling in a form. The prompts were just too tight. There was no space to think. The system was supposed to help me reflect, but instead it was just another thing to try and complete correctly. So I abandoned it. And then I felt guilty about abandoning it. Classic. What I landed on eventually is the opposite of that. No prescribed prompts, no rigid template, just a page a day, written in the evening, structured around a couple of anchor points that I genuinely find useful, and then free writing for the rest. And alongside that, a habit tracker. Not to shame myself into doing things, but to see the shape of my weeks and to check whether the balance I keep talking about is actually happening. Not just in theory, but in practice. And here's the honest version. It's easy to say you value sleep, time with your daughter, creative time and exercise. It's another thing to look at a month of data and see whether those things are actually showing up. The journal helps me understand the day. The tracker helps me understand the bigger picture. Between the two of them, I've got something I didn't have before, which is a way to close that gap on how I want my life to look and what it actually looks like. So let me walk you through the actual system, starting with the main journal. It's a Moleskine classic softback. It's currently sitting within a nice Orbit key case that's literally just keeping it in a good condition. Each journal lasts me about 3 to 4 months before it's full. And when I finish one, I sit down and I read it cover to cover before I start the next. There's something really grounding about seeing that. It's a whole chapter of your life in about 120 pages. Each day gets one page, and that page has a simple structure. I start with my one key highlight for the day. I then have my one thing, which is the single most important thing I did or I want to carry forward. And then the rest is free text, whatever's on my mind. The highlight and one thing act as anchors. They stop the diary entry becoming rambling and about nothing in particular, but they don't constrain free writing that follows. It took me a while to figure out that combination. Structure at the top, freedom underneath. I write in the evening after dinner, and I've come to think of it as a way of filing away my day. not analysing it to death, not beating myself up on what did or didn't happen. Just, here's what the day was, here's what mattered, and I can put it down now. Does it help me sleep? I absolutely think so. It definitely helps me stop carrying the day into later in the evening. There's a small but real psychological shift in writing something down and then closing that notebook. One practical note, if I go out in the evening or I'm not around, I do it in the morning instead. I used to feel that this broke the habit, but I've stopped thinking it that way. It's not a point about compliance, it's a point about doing it and feeling good about it. The habit tracker lives inside the same Moleskine, and it works on a monthly basis. Each tracker covers 1 month. The things I track are how many hours I sleep, how many dog walks we went on, did I do any exercise, did I put some creative time in for myself, did I have time for my daughter, and did I journal myself? I also track weight, but just once a week, not daily, and that's a deliberate choice. Daily weight data is a bit noisy and tends to make me feel a bit obsessive. Weekly gives you that trend without the noise. Now, and this is the really important bit for habit trackers for me, I don't look at the habit tracker as a to-do list, and I don't look at a blank square as a failure. I look at it as a map. What does this month actually look like? Are the things I say I care about and want to do, exercise, creative time, time with my daughter, are they showing up regularly? Or is there a 2-week stretch where they've all dropped off at the same time? And if so, what was happening in my life during that period? That's useful information. That's not guilt. That's data and intelligence. The habit tracker is how I check. The habit tracker is how I check the balance isn't just something I'm talking about on a podcast. It's my own accountability layer without self-punishment. The Moleskine also holds a longer running record across multiple months of books I've read, films and TV shows I've watched, my ratings for each of those, key quotes that have caught my attention, and goals, both my ongoing ones and those I've completed. This isn't journaling and being really detailed exactly. It's more like a personal archive, but having it in the same place as everything else means I keep it updated rather than putting it in some app which I may open 3 times and then completely forget about. The books and rating section in particular I found to be really satisfying to look back. It's a record of what has occupied my mind in the year. What was I interested in? What resonated? And the key quote section has become something I genuinely use. When I'm writing or preparing one of these episodes, I'll flip back and I'll look and I'll find something I noted down a few months ago that's suddenly relevant. It's a slow build reference system. No efforts required, just a habit of writing things down at the moment. Okay, the second part of my system, and this is the bit that really gets me going about it, and the thing I'd recommend to anyone who takes anything from this episode. Alongside the main Moleskine, I carry a smaller notebook, field note style, the kind that fits in your back pocket, and it goes everywhere with me. Its job is simple, capturing everything you'd otherwise try and hold in your head. Not structured, not laid out, just random ideas, reminders, things that I need to do, questions that I want to ask, anything that pops into my head that I'd normally either try and memorize or just let go of. I check it every morning, and honestly, the number of things that I would have simply forgotten about and evaporated out of my head is remarkable. Not just work stuff, life stuff, details that I wanted to look up. Here's an example that I think illustrates exactly what I mean. I only remember about what I want to do with my beard when I'm actually trimming it, which is obviously the moment I can't actually look anything up. So after I trimmed it last time, I wrote it down in the carry notes. And because it was written down, I actually remembered to look it up later, find out what I needed and store it properly in my second brain system in Notion. That's a very small thing, beard shaping tips, but the principle scales. When you stop trying to hold all those small things in your head, two things actually happen. You feel less cluttered and you actually remember more. And because important things are being captured rather than lost. The carry notes also feed into the evening journal in a useful way. Not because they've got notes of what to write in there, but by the time I sit down to write in my journal, the urgent to-dos, the admin, it's already captured. So the journal can stay reflective. It doesn't turn into a task list because the task list lives somewhere else. And one last detail, because I genuinely think it works really well, is I've printed a 3D clip for my pen for the notebook. For the main journal, it just keeps the pen handy. For the carry notes, it also keeps everything closed, which means it's not getting battered in my pocket. You do not want to be trying to journal without a pen nearby. I speak from experience. No pen, no journal. So that's all been analog, but there is a small digital layer to the side of things. I photograph each journal page and I add it to the Day One app, which is a journaling app I've been using for many years. I'm on their freemium tier from before it went to a paid subscription. This isn't a digital instead of analog system. This is me still maintaining the physical journal of writing things down and where the actual thinking happens. Day One is a backup and archive for me. And it has one thing I truly love about it, which is an on this day feature. Looking back at what I wrote a year ago or 3 years ago gives you a perspective of your own life that you simply can't get in another way. You can see what you were worried about and what has happened. You can see how much has changed. You can see what stayed consistent. It's genuinely useful, not just nostalgic. Okay, you've heard me talk about journaling and you're thinking about getting into it and you don't know where to start. Here's my one thing in advice. Get a small notebook and carry it with you everywhere. Write down anything you'd otherwise try and remember. Check it every morning. That's it. Don't worry about a beautiful journal system. Don't worry about morning pages or evening routines or habit trackers. Just start capturing things you'd otherwise lose. Because here's what happens. Writing things down becomes the habit itself. And once you're in a habit of capturing small things, you start naturally to want to capture the bigger things. The evening journal, the tracker, all of that came later for me. And it all started with just not wanting to forget stuff. The carry notes removes the pressure of trying to remember everything. And when that pressure lifts, there's actually room to think. And that's where the journaling mindset begins. If this episode got you thinking, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below. What's your current system for capturing thoughts and ideas? Are you a notebook person? Are you a phone notes person? Are you a remember it in the shower and then actually forget it person? I've been there with all of those. No judgments at all. And if you found this useful, please do subscribe. It's the single best thing that we can help to do to get the show to grow. And it means that you won't miss what's coming up next. That's it for this episode of A Balanced Life. Thanks for spending time with me today. I genuinely appreciate it. I hope to see you in the next one.